Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about merchandising and why merchandising is so important. When people come into the fun zone, in our particular fun zone, we call it the right-hand turn. They walk in through the chute, they come in, they took a look at the wall, and they just are pretty excited about the prizes that we have available for them. Dependent upon their age, they may be looking at different things on that wall. We've got some Super Saver prizes. We've got a lot of branded merchandise from BMI. So having a complete wall is really important. It's kind of like going into a retail store. If you go into a retail store and you see it's not merchandised well, it's missing a lot of product, it's not going to be an exciting place to shop. Well, when people come into the fun zone, that's what they're doing. They're shopping for prizes. So it's really important that you have good merchandise, that it's merchandised well, and it looks really good, because that's what gets people to play games. They'll look at a prize and say, oh my gosh, that's 6,000 tickets. I need to earn 6,000 tickets. And you'll be surprised whether they save or reload the card. It's going to happen. So what also happens is if they see something for 6,000 tickets, and then all of a sudden we get a different prize in that's 1,200 tickets, and they go, wow, let me get that. And then they start saving again towards that 6,000. When it comes to merchandising your bins, it's really important that you take the time and effort to make them look good. You know, your bins are divided into two sections, and the reason you do that is so the front portion of your bin, you can merchandise that, and the back portion, some of the items you can just, you know, drop in there. It's not going to be as important how they're merchandised. But the front items need to be merchandised well. You look at our Rainbow Springs here, you can see the packaging is all lined up perfectly. We actually took one of the items out of the box and put it there so people can see what it is. You know, we have the same thing with the Krabby Patties, our ice cream shooters here, and even, you know, the wall climbers. You can see what that product is. It's nice. Some of these items here, you know, you may have to tape those items to keep them steady, depending upon what you do, but it's always important to have the front portion of your bins looking good. What's also important is to make sure that your ticket values are aligned. So, you know, you go from a lower ticket value all the way down to a higher ticket value. You don't want to have a 70 here and a 125 there. It's just confusing to the guests. It's always important that you have your ticket values correct. So when you're working with some of your guests and you want them to know that they only have, say, 35 or 40 points less, then you can say, well, you can have everything in the bins from here on. And that way, you know, they're not looking at 125 points because there's a 35 stuck in the middle of that. Okay, when it comes to merchandising your wall, it's really important to make sure that it looks good. So in doing that, you want to front face your merchandise. You want to pull it forward if you've only got a few on that peg to make that peg look full. A lot of times you'll look at a peg and it'll be pushed back. Well, that's really not the look we want. Even if there's only one or two, if you pull it forward, it looks like that peg is full. With BMI, you're getting glass shelves, which are great because they look really cool for the merchandising of the wall, but they also collect a lot of dust. You need to make sure that you're on a routine basis, you're cleaning those glass shelves, as well as the fingerprints that you're going to get every single day on your glass on the counter. Okay, when you're merchandising your wall, a few things are important. One is that you have the proper tags for the particular item. Now, there are barcodes on the back of these if you want to scan those, but one of the things that BMI has done is they've taken the barcodes from the manufacturer and they've put those into the system so you can simply scan that. So you really don't need to be flipping up this tag all the time. If you don't have a tag, we've talked about this earlier, in the management tools, you can go in there and download a template and print tags. You want all your merchandise front stocked. So if you have an item, like for example, the energy orb here, say we only have a few of those. Now, if it's not front stocked, it doesn't look really good. All you need to do is take it, pull it up, and it looks much better. You don't want to be having things pushed back. So regardless of how many items you have on a peg, you want to make sure that those items are pulled forward. Okay, so making sure you have the proper tag, make sure the item is front stocked, and you should have an item on each peg. And if you happen to run out of a particular item, you could double up on an item if you need to for a couple days, just to make sure your wall looks full. Okay, when it comes to the towers, we don't use BMI to merchandise the towers. We get our product either locally at a Costco, Sam's Club, a Target, or we order that from Amazon. You want one or maybe two items in each of the spots of the towers. And we have our larger ticket items, 60,000 here for an Xbox. These Lego items are fast movers, and they're 14,000. And we have a headset up there for 16,000. We typically don't like to put anything in the towers less than 5,000. It'll vary dependent upon location. And we actually have obviously the two towers here, plus we have a floor standing tower, so we have a little bit more flexibility in what we can put in. But you definitely want to put high value super saver prizes in the towers. You don't want to put something for 1,000 or 2,000. That's definitely not what these are for. You definitely want to put a super saver prizer in there. Okay, for the top shelf, we use BMI for two particular items. That's all they get on our top shelves. The rest of the merchandise we get from either, again, your local source could be Amazon, could be Walmart, could be Target, Sam's Club, Costco, but BMI is limited to two items on the top shelf. The rest of the merchandise on the top shelf, we fill ourselves with high value product. And we let BMI know that we want items at least of 5,000 or more on the top shelf. One of the things that we like to use in all of our fun zones are wall grids, and they can be purchased from maybe a local supplier. You can definitely get them in Amazon in a 3-pack. We kind of keep them themed. This one is more maybe to a younger group, girls. We have items that they kind of work together. We have another grid which is just electronics, and we have another grid which is more sports or outdoors. So you want to keep larger ticket items on this. The smallest one we have here is 4,000 as a filler, but typically we want to keep some larger items on these grids. We don't want a lot of little small items on the grid. Big prizes, big impact. Same thing for the Army guys. You want to have a bag or two in the back. They're not expensive. It's a few dollars a bag, and you want to have those on hand. Okay, one of the great things about BMI is that they provide you with a planogram, which is updated weekly. And that's pretty unique. So if you get a new item, your planogram will reflect that. So it's really important that you teach your team members how to use that planogram. And like everybody, BMI is not perfect. If there's something that you don't like on your planogram, then talk to the team at BMI and they'll work with you to make adjustments to make sure that the wall looks the way you want it to look. Again, when they discontinue an item and they send a suggested replacement out, they'll send you an email and say, hey, this is what we recommend. If you don't like that item or you want something different, then talk to the team at BMI and they'll work with you to do that. Now, we have 6 locations currently, and we use a planogram in each of those locations. It's really important that your team members follow that planogram. BMI has people that specifically do this planogram for you, so it really looks best. Again, not everything is perfect, and if there's something that you don't like, maybe they put a low ticket item really, really high that moves fast, so you want that lowered, you just let them know. And if you have any problems or questions, you got a camera phone, take a picture, send it to BMI, and they'll work with you to do that. Now, if you have items that you receive that are not moving very fast, give them some time, but if they're just not a good item, then, if you're going to do a markdown on it, Pizza Ranch has some resources for you where you can tags, it'll say hot item or reduced item, and you can put those on that particular item. But marking down items, we've done it with a few things here on this wall, and things move pretty quickly when you do that. When BMI discontinues an item and replaces it, they will send you an email such as this one here. You'll notice the old item was an RC helicopter. It was 1825 and they were sold individually. The new item is going to be a monster truck. Its ticket value is $2,100 and its sale price is $1,387. Again, it's individual. They sell them individually. What BMI is going to send you is 4 with your order. If you, for some reason, don't like the replacement product, you can talk to your account manager. If you want to change the quantity and say, hey, we've had these before, they're quick sellers, I want to order 6, you can do that and let your account manager know. To access your planogram, all you need to do is go to the BMI website. It's really simple. It's there under Management Tools. It is updated every time they change out one of your products, so it's typically updated on a weekly basis if your products are being changed out that frequently. When BMI sets up your wall, they send you tags for every single product. Actually, their merchandisers come out, set up your wall, and they tag every single item. Now, when they send you a new item, you'll also receive a new tag. Pretty important that you make sure that every item on your wall has a tag. But if you're bringing in merchandise from Amazon or whatever, you're going to have to print your own tags. Now, we actually have 3 levels of tags we do. We have a small, a medium, and then we have a 5x7 that we use commonly on our grids. Okay, when it comes to your cranes, merchandising them is important as well. They need to be full, and it's not just dropping the merchandise in here again. If you look, you want to have things, looking at you front faced as much as possible. I know you may think that's a waste of time, but it really isn't. You want people to be able to look at a particular piece of plush and say, hey, I want to win that. If it's upside down or backwards, it's really not that attractive. So you want to do your best to make sure the merchandise looks good inside the cranes. Now, obviously, when it comes to the balls, knobby balls, you just want to fill it up and make sure it's full at all times. Have backup balls blown up if it's a busy day so you can change out during the middle of the day. When it comes to your candy cranes and your ducks, it's the same thing. You just want to make sure those are full at all times. And ducks, you want them right up there to the top of that acrylic piece. You just want them full and at all times. Again, make sure you have plenty on hand, and you don't want the levels of your ducks or your candy crane to drop down. You want to keep these cranes full. When it comes to your cranes, it's pretty simple. Your candy cranes, you're going to have a mix of candies. Your ducks, you're going to have a mix of dust. The cost of goods on those, it's pretty simple. When it comes to plush, it's different. It depends on how much you're actually charging for that particular play. If you have generic plush like we have in here, the cost of that plush is a lot less than if you do some license. Now, you can do different things. You can have generic plush like this, and then you can throw in a few licensed pieces, and that makes it more attractive. But it's important, if you switch from generic plush to licensed plush and you leave the cost to play the game the same, your cost of good is going to skyrocket. So typically what we found in most cases, unless you're doing a high-end crane, when you put merchandise in here, the generic works really well. When you look at the BMI website, you do have an opportunity to order things through the website. But what we recommend is that you contact your account manager and work with them to order those particular items. Now, what we have created is a sheet at each of our locations which shows us crane merchandise and the crane merchandise that we will order from on a regular basis. Now, that merchandise, obviously if we go here to the duck crane, we order this item, duck. So that gives you 300 pieces at the cost of 33 cents each. So when you reply back to your account manager, it's not going to have duck on that Excel spreadsheet. So you reply back to the account manager and say, please include with this order 3 cases of duck. Or some people will actually just create an order separately, but I find it easier just to include it in your regular replenishment order. You can look there for your ducks. You'll have other merchandise kits for your candy. And again, to me, it's just simpler just replying back to that particular item. So there's a lot of different things that you will see in here. Try not to buy everything you see. I know it seems like fun, but definitely not something that you want to do. For the crane kits, typically we do a generic crane and generic plush, 72 pieces, $3.15 each. That goes into our cranes. Your Pizza Ranch logo balls are here as well. When you start going into your licensed, you can see the prices go up significantly. So I would stay away from those unless you're charging more than $1 per play. Okay, you know, one of the things that we really don't think about a lot is, you know, the guest experience when they come up to the counter. For the little kids, it's probably one of the most exciting parts of this. So you need to have someone that's working at the counter that has some excitement and some enthusiasm. It's important that it's just not scanning their cards and giving them a prize. You know, you need to share some excitement with these kids that come up, you know, whether that be a high five or whatever, you know, letting them know that, hey, you did a great job. It's important. And the other thing is you need to move them through as quickly as possible. So you need to help them out a little bit. If there's only 30 tickets, maybe you say, hey, why don't you get a couple balls? If they only have 5 tickets left, maybe it's on an Army guy or a Tootsie Roll. So you need to help them out. So when they come up to the counter, you know, you want to be excited to see them and let them know, hey guys, how's it going? Okay, let's see that card. Wow, you've got 600 points. Let me see that wristband there. Okay, good deal. And you have 580 points. Okay, you did a great job. And what do you want to get with your tickets?
Bow and arrow.
The bow and arrow. Excellent. Good job. So you just take that, scan that. There you go. And how about you?
The avocado.
The avocado. That's a great choice. All right, there you go. Good job, guys. Now, it's important after you finish with each guest that you make sure that you finalize the sale. That sale is not finalized until there's a check mark on your screen. If you don't finalize the sale, you're going to have park sales. What park sales does, it kind of just exactly what it says. It just parks that sale there and it stays there indefinitely until you remove it. This can mess up your inventory. It has a whole lot of bad things happen when you don't finalize a sale. Those tickets are left on a card. So it's important that after each transaction, you take your scanner and you finalize that transaction. And when you do, you'll look up on the screen, you'll see a check mark. Transaction complete.